Hello, my name is Samantha Langford, and I did my presentation on Chapter 7, Increasing Learning by Using Note-Taking Strategies. Preparing to become a math teacher, note-taking is a fundamental part of math, and that is why I chose this chapter. I've mixed up the strategies a bit in order of what I found to be most effective for math students/teachers. And just a quick note, at the end of each strategy, I will emphasize how I could implement or use it in my future classrooms. So the first one is teach abbreviations. Abbreviations are just the shortening of words and even replacing words with symbols, like the pound sign for the word number. According to the book, a study showed that the students with ELN were not abbreviating at all and were having a hard time keeping up with the notes, while their counterparts were keeping up with the teacher via abbreviations. They would then create what is called a key, which can be located off to the right or left of the page, or if there are a lot of abbreviations on another page. It was found that encouraging students with ELN to abbreviate their notes led to proficiency and fluency in knowledge and comprehension of the subject. This was because frustration was lowered, because now they could write fast enough to keep up with the teacher, and their memory was enhanced thanks to this. Abbreviations are huge in mathematics. We use them for just about everything, from measurements to weight, vocabulary, and more. We use abbreviations and symbols that represent words and entire equations. I believe that this would truly help students keep up with what is being said, and the key would help them to remember what those abbreviations mean. The next one I found pretty important is the partial graphic organizer notes. I found in the book Robinson conducted 4 experiments on partial graphic organizers, or GO for short, notes in a classroom environment. It was concluded that the students in the partial GO condition consistently outperformed their peers. Now for math, I could see using this as a way of filling in the blanks when it comes to equations and formulas that are essential for tests, quizzes, and everyday life. Now, this one was exceptional with the data guided notes. This was developed by Lazarus. Now, guided notes is something we should all be familiar with. If you've ever had to write an outline for an essay, that's basically what it looks like. Now, they tested students with this, and these are the results. ELNS students who did not have the guided notes scored on their tests between 10% to 25%. That's an F grade. 1 week of guided notes without review, now that's without the review, those scores skyrocketed to 60 to 70%. That went from an F to between a D to a C minus. 2nd week of guided notes with the review, the scores were outrageous at 75% to 90%. That jumped to a C to an A. That is just outstanding. For the brick and mortar, they mentioned that they tested this on ADHD kids. This form of note-taking is designed for teachers who organize a lecture into several questions and then their answers. Students use notebook paper and draw a box around the space between 2 lines with a pencil. This would be the mortar part. Then the students would draw a brick by drawing another box around the lines and spaces representing about 5 to 6 lines of notebook paper. Now this is the brick, and it is usually red or just a different color pin from the pencil. This continues until the page is filled up. So the concept is they do this and then they cover up the answer of the first question on the page, read the question, and give the answer they think is right. Move the paper down and see if they are correct. Now this concept would work in math class to help familiarize students with the various formulas, vocabulary, and measurements. The next one that they mentioned is teaching summarizing. The purpose of summarizing is to have the students think about what they've learned for the day and begin to internalize the information. Since this is part of the student's metacognitive development, it is necessary that they do it, not the teacher, the student. The teacher can obviously help guide them along the way by asking students questions and providing rules for the written summaries. For math, summarizing could be used as a way to recap the equations, the formulas, maybe shortcuts for those formulas, and vocabulary that are needed to know for future homework, tests, and quizzes. Newspaper notes I found pretty interesting. Now this is kind of another format of summarizing. It distills summarization into the minds of the students to help ELNS and ELLs to better comprehend the information. One way for this is to have them write the way newspaper reporters write. This strategy is to adapt the 5 W's and H of writing a news article. That's the who, what, when, where, why, and of course how, with the addition of to whom and effect. So the graphic is drawn down into various columns, each containing one of the 5 W's as shown in the picture. For math, this would be great for breaking down word problems and helping them figure out Another one of the strategies was strategic notes. Now this is when students write down the lecture topic and then connect it to what they know about the topic. Next, the students would be directed to cluster 3 to 7 main points with details as the instructor lectures. This is to help the students identify more with the topic being discussed, and that might help them learn the topic that much better. Now this could be a bit more complicated in math, but perhaps starting off with helping them to relate the math to real-life scenarios might improve and be implemented into the The 3-column personalized notes is another strategy mentioned in the book, or chapter. This was designed so students with ELNS could relate personal experience with the new topic or ideas. Shambo, not sure if I pronounced that correctly, recommended visual note-taking strategies and included the 3-column strategy with a column for personal reflections, such as the 3-column personalized notes, to break down the columns for better understanding. The first column is narrow and meant for the chapter subtitle. So say the chapter is on transitions, if this is math class, and the subtitle is vectors. Now the second column, the widest of the 3 columns, is for extended notes from the subtitle or from the lecture. And finally, the third column is for students to include examples from their own life or personal thoughts. So for example, if the subtopic is on rectangles, maybe they can put in real life examples of rectangles like their bed, or their house, the garden, etc. So for math, this would have an easy transition. The first column for the subtopic, like right triangles. The second column for the notes. This could include the sum of all the angles, formula for the area of a right triangle, etc. The final column would be for real-life examples or experiences. A door wedge, a three-legged stool, so on. As a final note, I would like to mention a couple of my favorites. The first one being abbreviations, because math already has so many abbreviations for just about everything, that I hope that getting students to do this would trickle into other classroom note-taking and make things easier for them to understand. My second one is the GOs, or graphic organizers, because it would help break down complex formulas and equations into something easy to understand. And finally, guided notes. The stats just tell me I should try to implement this into my lesson plans. The stats, they just don't lie. I would also like to take a quick note that the brick and mortar note-taking is a great way for students to study for upcoming tests and quizzes. In conclusion, that is about it for Chapter 7. It was a great chapter with lots of good tactics and tips for helping my students better understand and love math. And I hope that I will take these into my classroom for my future students.